All praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, controller of this entire cosmos. And may the choicest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be upon our Nabi, Nabiullah, Habibullah, Sarkar Madina, Ruh Hasina, Nabi Kareem, Rauf Rahim, Rahmatan lil Alameen, Sayyidul Mursaleen, Khatam al-Nabiyyin, Imam al-Anbiya, Ahmad Mujtaba, Muhammad Arabi, Muhammadur Rasulullah, Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam. Brothers, sisters, elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I thank the organizers for putting together this wonderful event, and mashallah ta'ala, focusing on the children in the ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And I'm really happy that the sort of topic chosen for this particular event is surrounding the tarbiyah of children in light of the prophetic practice, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know, the investment we put into children today is extremely important, because the children of today are the future for tomorrow. And had we, as people of this age and this era, if we had properly understood this and encapsulated this, then we would have had today strong forces in the ummah of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We would have had strong ummatis walking the streets, embodying the sunnah of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you know, I personally believe one of the sort of greatest sort of global crises that we have is the fact that we don't raise children properly, child rearing. This isn't proper in this day and age. I think that's one of the greatest, globally, that's one of the greatest problems. And you know, as Muslims, we weren't like this. We weren't like this. Our practices historically were very, very firm in this respect. But then we dwindled, we disintegrated as time went on. Things have changed now. You know, and you might be thinking, what went wrong? What's different now? I don't understand. You know, we've never heard of the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, you know, about raising children and focusing on education of children, and you know, the practices in the home, and you know, and the reason for that is because what's happened is we've changed as a people. We've come away from the Quran. We've come away from the study of Islam, and now the people, you know, we're more concerned with worldly practices, and you know, acquiring great degrees, academic institutions, and making money and doing well in business. That's all we're concerned about. We're not concerned about Islam. In these days, people are struggling. They are struggling to deal with you know, the ahkamat and you know, ibadat. We just about you know, encapsulate topic. In fact, we're struggling to. I said to somebody the other day, you know, I use this commonly, by the way. I said to somebody the other day, you know, when they argue with me about Islam, you know, the first question I put to them, I said, tell me the rule of istinja. They tell me the rule of istinja. According to fiqh, the law, because, you know, if you're claiming to be a self-proclaimed mufti, then I want to know, you know, before we go there, you tell me what the basics are. And very commonly, they'll say, look, you just throw water. But that, and I say, but that's not just the rule. There's more than that. What's the Islamic rule on this, right? And don't worry. You know, some of you look terrified because I've said this. You know, there's no sharm in Shariat, right? In Shariat, there should be no sharm. This is what the ulama say, right? So we shouldn't be scared to discuss these are important issues. And then they don't know they don't know what the answer is. Then I say, well, there's much more to it than that. There's a whole backdrop. There's massive chapters ulama written. You know, in order to teach us how to be clean, how to look after ourselves, how to perform these acts in accordance with the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that's the reality. The point is, what I'm saying is, that's the reality. We don't even know how to do wudu properly these days. Forget about raising children. This is something which is, far behind. We need to really go back to grassroots level first, and start at the basics and then build our way up. But I'll tell you this. In the past, the ulama, these issues what we struggle with, on basic ibadat, how to pray, how to do zakat, how to pay zakat, how to do hajj, all the rulings surrounding, the fiqh masail surrounding Ramadan and fasting and things like that. We're struggling with these at the moment, but in those days, in the times where Islam was at its peak, these were standard issues known to the people because they were practiced. That's why they were understood even further. They were practiced. And alhamdulillah ta'ala, although there's a lot of movements and efforts going back to that, what I want to tell you is, in the ulama of the past, this was an extremely important subject, how to raise children. Extremely important subject. And this was something which the ulama had written compendiums about. Great scholars of deen, they wrote chapters on education, chapters on how to raise children. They did lots of commentary on ahadith, where the Prophet ﷺ interacted with children from the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum. So, there's massive amounts of information for us there. But alhamdulillah, today we'll cover, in the time permitted, inshallah Aziz, I will introduce this to you. And I'm sure some of these things, the people who will be looking into this, they know about this. But inshallah Aziz, as this lecture develops, I'm sure and I hope that, I will open this doorway to sort of, as parents, and people who, even if you are not parents, tomorrow with a view that you will become parents, inshallah Aziz, may Allah give us all the ability, and we raise those children in alignment with the nur of the Quran and Hadith. And when we do this, believe me, then you see the barakah in your homes. Then you see the barakah in your houses and in your families and your lives. And wallahi, a great alim once said, he said, the majority of trials and tribulations that we face as people, one of the main reasons for that is because we left the Quran, we left Islam, we don't pray. We are, somebody once said to me, he said, you are the author of your own demise, right? So we're the author of our own demise because we left Islam, we came away from it. Then we wonder why all these tribulations are happening, why all this bad is happening, why all these things are taking place. Something, a quote, Mark Twain, he said, it's actually a very interesting, you may be thinking Mark Twain, but it's actually very interesting what he said. He said, I learned my education from uneducated people. I learned my education from uneducated people. You may be thinking, what is he talking about here? But let me just expand on this. There's another quote, Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of America, and he said, it's better that you do not read at all than reading the words from newspapers. He says it's better that you don't read at all than if you're just going to read from newspapers. Now, there's an underlying message that both of these are trying to reach here, and that is this, that, people who are taught from day one, read newspapers, study, go through the academic system. We live in a society these days that's very, very structured. We're taught from the outset, from school when we're young, believe this, we're taught what to believe, we're taught what to think, we're taught how to perceive things. Everything's so regulated, and they make you think, when you read a newspaper, it's actually very clever because it makes you think that you've developed an understanding on the topic and you've derived your own opinion from it. But actually the way it's presented is very, very clever because it gives you an opinion. It doesn't teach you how to formulate an opinion in that respect. It's very biased. It gives you an opinion. It gives you an understanding on something. So you didn't think yourself and use your own brain to get to that. You was given this belief. You was given this opinion. You was given this understanding. It's all very, very regulated. Do you see? So one thing, so what he said is that it's better that you read nothing than if you're just going to read newspapers. Because one gift that as all parents we should do, especially in this day and age and in this society, is teach your children how to think. Teach your children how to think by themselves independently. Now this entails many, many things. and we can go into huge detail about this. But you need to give them the ability to develop on their own. Give them the ability to develop on their own. You know, I asked my nephews, they've come around for the holidays, they come to our town when my older sister visits, and they normally attend Jummah with me. And on the way to Jummah, I asked them a question. I said to them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah. He said, oh you who believe, fear Allah. They're only very young, I think the oldest one is 8, from the two of them. And I said to them, tell me this, Allah says in the Quran, oh you who believe, fear Allah. I said, what does that mean? You know, you see this a lot, ittaqullah, ittaqullah, you know, you fear Allah. In the Quran, this is his instruction. So I said to him, so this was an exercise, a bonding exercise with him. Everyone should try this today. Inshallah, go home, try this with your children. You'll be amazed to see what you find in their response. And I said to him, what do you think it means? So he sat there and he thought about it. And he said to me, he said, I think that it means that we should be scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if we do something wrong, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. We're going to get punished, and Allah is going to ask us, and it's not going to be good for us. So we need to be good. We need to be good. So I let him think about it. I go, are you sure you think that's what it means? Because that's what I think it means. I said, let me put it to you this way. I said, apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on this earth, who do you fear? On the earth, who do you fear? And he thought about it. At first he didn't want to tell me, but then he goes, I fear my dad. He's I'm scared of my dad. And he goes, don't tell him I said this to you. And no, I said to him, I said, look, you fear your dad and you fear your mom, right? And he said, yeah, I fear my mom and dad. I said, tell me why you're scared of them. And he thought about it and he said, you know what? He says, you know what? It took him a while with the elder one, but he said, I know why I fear him. He says, because I don't want to upset his heart. He said, if I do something wrong, he goes, the thing that I'm most scared of, I don't want to upset his heart. I said, don't you worry about that. Maybe he will tell you off. Or maybe he will say, no PlayStation for a week. Or maybe he will say, you can't go out to play with your friends. And he said, not really. He said, you know, that happens, to be honest with you. But he says, the thing I hate the most is when he gets upset with me. I don't want to upset him. In the same way, if you had a brother or a sister, and they were doing something very silly, and you tried to explain it, but they wouldn't listen to you. And you know they get offended very quick. And you said to your friend, or you said to your mom, you said, she's very silly what she's doing. And that brother or sister came in and they heard you, and they became really offended. You'd feel bad that they heard you, isn't it? That's if you're talking about them in a positive way. Of course, no backbiting allowed. I hope no one would do any backbiting. But the point is, you'd feel really bad because, oh no, he heard me. But I was talking about it in a constructive way. With my mom, I was talking about he needs to be told to do this or do that, right? So we're talking about it, but you'd be offended. You'd feel bad in your heart because you've hurt that person's heart. You've offended that person. So you're scared of them because you don't want to upset them, right? There's a different type of fear that we're talking about here. In the same way, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah, He said, oh you who believe, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not saying be scared of me, that I'm going to punish you and I'm going to bring my wrath down on you. He's saying, oh person, love me, have taqwa, be God conscious, know Allah is watching you. If your brother hears you or your father hears you do something which would upset him, you'd feel bad, right? But we know Allah is always watching. Allah is forging a relationship with the believer. Allah is forging a relationship. Allah wants you to know that He's always watching. Do you really want to upset Allah Kareem? How will you obtain the raza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you will upset Him? This is the love that Allah is forging with His believer. We don't want to upset Allah. We don't want to upset your yar. Because this is the relationship that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, what I'm saying to you is, it was a very productive exercise. You know, we should sit with our children and we should have these exercises with them. We should speak to them about these things and, give them time. We need to give them time. This is the most important thing. We're very busy in this day and age, right? A lot of that busy is just dunya. It's in your way. The phone these days and the tablet and the television and the internet. These are all traps. These are all traps. And we're busy answering back our 500 WhatsApp messages. Bismillah, you text me, I better text you back. And your wife says, spend some time with the children. And you say, I'm busy, give me 5 minutes. And 5 minutes turns into 2 hours. By the end of it, I'm knackered, I've had a long day today. I'm knackered, I've had a long day. Half of them are just forward messaging. It's consuming. It's designed to consume you. You need to know when to switch off. Let me tell you something. Everybody talks about the rights of parents, right? Allah Ta'ala, in the Quran, Allah has done bayan. And Allah has talked about the greatness of parents. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. You're supposed to love your parents more than anybody, right? And that's the first thing that parents say to the children. No, don't forget what Allah said in the Quran. La taqul lahumma uffin. Don't even say uff to your mother. This is the way Allah talked about parents and raised the maqam of parents in the Quran. That's true, and that's in its place. But have you ever thought of it this way? Before Allah put the rights of parents in place, who do you think deserves their rights first? Because when a baby is born, and when a baby is newly born, that baby doesn't have the understanding or the mental facility to be able to perform or even understand the rights of the parents. So whose rights came first in that respect? Practically speaking, the rights of the children came first. The rights of the children came first. Because you have to give the rights of the children first to the child. And then when he's of age, she's of age, then you take your rights as parents. But there's conditions to that, and inshallah we'll develop on those. But Ibn Sirin, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was the great tabi'een. I believe he was a great tabi'een after the time of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Somebody came to him and they said, Huzur, I've discovered and I've realized I want to have children. He said, I want to have children. I want to have children. What would you recommend, Hazrat? And he said, you must learn the rights of that child before the child comes. And Ibn Sirin asked him, is your wife pregnant? And he said, my wife's pregnant. He said, you're already too late. You're already too late. In other words, having a child, bringing a masoom young soul, innocent young soul into this world, there are certain conditions for that. There are certain rights that child comes with, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established for this child. But do we know what these rights are? It's like people get married these days and they don't know their rights, they don't know the wife's rights. They haven't established even necessary sabr within them. They don't even know about sabr. It's a key ingredient in a marriage. You have to have sabr, you have to have the ability to compromise with your wife, right? And the people getting into relationships, they're getting married. It's like saying, I've got my provisional license through today, and buy me a new car, Dad. So you buy a new car, you put it on the driveway, you don't know whether you're going to pass after 1 test, 2 tests, 10 tests. You're going to buy a car when you've passed your test. So why are we like this as people? Why don't we know our rights? Why don't we study? We've come far away from Islam. And let me say something to you. After this, many things you will become enlightened about. And some of you may even become upset and may feel, what about our parents? They didn't give us these rights sometimes. Or sometimes our parents did things which were contrary to what I'm going to tell you. So why didn't they do anything? Why didn't they do what was right? But you must remember this, that your parents, the chances are they came from Pakistan and they came here, if you're in the 2nd or 3rd generation. And they came here the facilities to learn Islam weren't very many in those days. You would be lucky if there was one mosque in a city them days. The ulama were rare, and to get hold of them, and access to Islamic knowledge was very different back then. Now remember this, those parents, they did the best that they could do in their given time. They did the best that they could do, whatever that was. They always wanted best for their children, even though they didn't have that understanding and facility. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed many of us in that we're able to return to the deen, we're able to study with the ulama. These facilities are available to us. What our parents couldn't do, we should do that. We should do that for our children, and we should also train our children so that they're able to assist and facilitate the generations moving forward, inshallah. Now, there's a number of things I wanted to sort of discuss with you today. about these, rights of children, etc. But I was saying to you, the ability, give the child the ability to think, give them a chance to breathe. Pose them scenarios, give them questions and answers. You've got to spend time with your children, and even if there's something that you don't do now, even if you spend 10-15 minutes away from them, because now, many people have concluded that, those children who parents don't spend time with, they don't sit down with them, they don't give them time, they don't speak to them, ask them how their day was, ask them what happened in nursery, find out if there's something upsetting them, because something, this was the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We'll come on to this inshallah Aziz. Hazrat Ali karamallahu wajhul kareem, he said, split the development of the child in 3 crucial stages. This is Hazrat Ali karamallahu wajhul kareem. And he said, in the first 7 years, you are to love and play with the child. For the first 7 years, love him or her and play with that child. And then the 7 years following that, you teach that child. You give them ilm deen. You teach that child, right? And then in the 7 years following that, from the age of 14 to 21, you be friends with them. You forward friendship with that child. And then he said, after the age of 21, you let loose their reins, because there's nothing further you can do. They're now developed into an adult. There's nothing further you can do, it's too late. And leave it now in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've done your job. But look at the way he broke this down. This thing about playing with children, this is very, very important. Sayyidina Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to play with children. Can you imagine, the man sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who this world, this whole universe, the diamond of this universe, who he was created for, he would play with children. And he was incredibly compassionate and gentle with children. This was the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was incredibly gentle and he was passionate with children. And he used to play with them, he used to get on the floor with them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet alaihi wasallam actually used to get on all fours. And they used to get on their knees and their hands on the ground, and they would let the grandsons of the Prophet alaihi wasallam, Hazrat Imam Hassan, Hazrat Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, and they used to ride on the back of Sayyidina Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the diamond of this universe. And this was his way, and this was his style with his grandsons sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and we must remember this. There's something crucial for us to remember, in that we're going to be judged for these children that we bring into this world. We're going to be judged for it. We will be responsible for them. If we bring children into this world, we didn't give them an Islamic background, we didn't give them a proper upbringing, we didn't ensure that they were good people, tomorrow if they commit fitna and fasad on the land, imagine your children do some really serious bad things, and then they become the leader of those movements, and they encourage loads of thousands of people behind them to also do these similar things. You're going to have a share in that. You've got a responsibility. What did you do? Did you try and educate that child? Did you try and raise them properly? Did you teach them the muhabba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Did you teach them the deen ilahi? Did your wife assist in this respect? You'll be questioned, and you will have a responsibility in this respect. And they say, and the ulama say, the first university of the child is the mother. The first university of the child is the mother. And I say this today, there's 80 to 90%, in fact there's about 90% women here today, mashallah ta'ala. I'm very happy to hear this, to see this. And I tell you something, it's always the brothers that are falling behind these days. And the sisters, mashallah, they always sat there on their phones typing away what they're listening to. They're really absorbing it. You can see from their faces, they're really absorbing it. The brothers are like, mashallah, there's a good setup here, this is the state. But I'm telling you, eventually, we're going to come to this, we're going to come to a position where the females, alhamdulillah, when it comes to the ahkamat and ilm deen, they're going to be at the top, right? And the men, they're not going to know what the rules are. They're not going to know what the ahkam are. They're not going to know what their rights are. And the females, they'll be telling them, right, well, according to the hadith, you have to mop up today. And he's like, oh, really? I have to mop up today? Yes, she goes, yeah, Bukhari. And and the men won't know anything because we've come away from deen. But you know, you know what? I'm not joking, honestly. You know, the men these days, you know, even at our courses and lectures, wherever you go now, it's a majority women, alhamdulillah, and they're listening, they're paying attention, they're really taking these things in and they're absorbing these things. But you know, as males, inshallah, we should be also vigilant in this respect, you know, otherwise before you know it, we will be locked in cages, you know, at night time. You know, you have to stay in this cage and you have to, you know, cry babies in our hands and things like this, you know. And she's going to tell you it's a haq, you know, and you won't know better because, you know, you've not studied any of this, but inshallah. So the mother is the child's first university because the initial nisbat, that sobat that child takes, that nashist, he gets that with his mother. He gets that from his mother. And you know, it's very important, you know, when we, you know, there's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in terms of when you choose a woman to marry, and you look at certain things, you know, لِحُسْنِهَا لِجَمَالِهَا, you know, there's certain things that the Prophet ﷺ specified. But one of them is, you know, based on her ilm. And the ulama say, if she has ilm ad-deen, you shouldn't say no to her. Because she will raise your children and she will embed that ilm ad-deen into your children. This is a key aspect to have within you know, a partner of your choice, that they have ilm ad-deen. And you know something, and they will embed that within the children. And that's also one of the rights of the children. You know this. That's also one of the rights of the children. You know, a man came to Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and it's a long narration, but I'll tell you the summary of it. And he came and he said to Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he said, Ya Umar, he said, my child here, he neglects his rights towards me. You know, he misbehaves, and he doesn't give me my rights, this child. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and you know, he complained about him. So Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he spoke to this child, and he asked him his name, he asked him certain questions, and then you know, he sort of discerned and found out his name and things like this. Then afterwards, he said to the father, he said, did you teach this child ilm ad-deen? And he said, no. So he was neglectful in this respect. He said, did you give him a good name? And his name carried a bad meaning. As far as I remember, it meant something along the lines of ugly. The hadith of Kama Qala Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. But you know, something along them lines. And then the other thing he asked him is, he said, did you marry a woman who had knowledge and ilm ad-deen? And he said, no. So he had neglected the rights of this child. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala said, you named him a bad name which evoked bad qualities. You didn't marry a lady or someone who had ilm of deen, whereby she could teach that to the children, or sort of incorporate that in their upbringing and their tarbiyah. And you didn't give them time. You didn't give them knowledge of the deen. So you've been neglectful towards this child. And he says to himself, on what basis do you want me to shun this child or tell him that? He said, you've neglected in everything yourself. So sometimes, you know, parents, they tend to complain, this child is very bad, but we need to look at ourselves as well. What are we doing for these children? Have we given them their rights? Have we given them that time? Or we just left them to it? Let him do what he wants. Let him play on his tablet. Let him, you know, do this and do that. You know, in this day and age, they're finding one of the common sort of, it's a disease, you know, Alzheimer's and dementia, these diseases, it's got to do with inactivity in the brain. Because we don't think, we don't exercise our brains. We don't use our brains these days. And as a result of that, what's happening is these diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia and things like this, they're now becoming apparent, which they chew away the brain. And it's a sickness which is caused in the early ages, but in the late ages. But now people are starting to get it sooner. You know, let me tell you something. There's a destruction in the iPads and these computer systems and these telephones that we're giving to our children. I know it's hard to take out, right? And I know it's very convenient to give it. I have children myself. I know it's hard to give it to them, you know, show them anything else otherwise. Right, you know, especially when they're playing up our public gathering, limit it and know the content that they're watching. You know, introduce them to, there's plenty of Islamic content on YouTube, you know, stories of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, stories of other Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam, you know, there's good sort of, you know, even cartoons and animated things available, so you should get them sort of accustomed to them. Nasheed and things like this that you listen into the car, you know, instead of, you know, daddy fingers, you know. All the sisters know what I'm talking about, you know. I'm also subjected to this, you know, unfortunately, but inshallah. So there's other viable alternatives that we can use and inshallah Aziz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, you will see a lot of barakah in the children. So these things are very dangerous, and one thing that they found these days is, when children don't think, and they're not given the opportunity to think, because they're given imagery all the time. They're looking at YouTube, they're watching television, and they're seeing all these images, and that's doing all the hard work. When we were children, when we were young, we used to hear stories. Somebody was tell us stories, and what this used to do was, this would develop and kick in sort of imaginative functions in the brain, and that was causing the brain to exercise. And you may not think this is something special, but it's very, very special. The children of the past, of this ummah, they heard stories. They heard ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the companions of the great ulama who came before them. And when a child is hearing a story, they are imagining it, and their imagination runs wild. Their brain is being exercised. Chemicals are being triggered in the brain. The brain is being exercised. It's a very, very healthy process. It's a very, very healthy process. I came across somebody who said, that, every day we used to read stories with my children. And he said we went through all the Harry Potter stories, etc. We went through the stories, and he said afterwards, when my children seen the films, he said, I thought the films were quite good. He said that the children they said, Dad, we were quite disappointed. What we had imagined in the story was far greater and far more magical compared to what we've seen in the actual film. With all the technology and with all the sort of development that they had, they said, no, look, we were more entertained with the story. So this is a very healthy practice. We need to start doing this, because this develops the brains of the children. Even 10 minutes a night. Even 10 minutes a night. The ulama say you should take books like Shamal al-Tirmidhi, characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ, 55 chapters, details, the beauty of the Prophet ﷺ, this compendium, and go through a couple of hadiths a night. Just read them to your sons and your children, and this way they will also develop the muhabba of Rasul Kareem ﷺ in their heart, and they will develop an understanding to the prophetic life and the story of the Prophet ﷺ. This is how we will but there's a hadith I want to share with you in this respect, but I'll come on to that in due course. Now the Prophet ﷺ, these kind of things are emphasized these days with the ulama. Like I said, it's not their fault. It's because they're dealing with more grassroots level things. The people of our time are struggling with basic, ma'mulat and basic issues of ibadat, salah and things like this. We don't even know the rulings on these things yet, let alone, intricate issues like dealing with children and things like this. So the Prophet ﷺ, they had many interactions, many hadiths, and there's much literature about when they interacted with children. The Prophet ﷺ would commonly, when they were walking and they would see children, they would go up to them and individually they would shake their hands. Sayyidina Rasulullah, they would stop and they would go and shake the hands of the children. They would meet them and they would, they would tap them on their head, or they would rub them on their head. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These days, once we're graduates, or once we've got a good job, or we've got more than 5,000 in the bank, that's it. We don't say salam to our relatives these days. We don't give haq to our relatives, let alone children. Let alone masoom children. But this was the practice of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet alaihi wasallam would give them time, and he would spend time, and he would play with them sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the way of the Prophet alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Anas bin Malik radiyallahu ta'ala, he was one of the key members of the Sahaba, and he wasn't just any ordinary Sahabi. He was a great narrator of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. His mother submitted Hazrat Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala, the ulama say, some say age 7, in the service of the Prophet ﷺ. She left him with the Prophet ﷺ. And this Hazrat Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala, he got tarbiyah, he was raised by the Prophet ﷺ. And he writes, and he says when he got older, he says that in all my time with the Prophet ﷺ as a child, the Prophet ﷺ never ever said to me, if he told me to do something, he never said to me, if I didn't do it, he never said, why didn't you do it? And if the Prophet ﷺ told me to do something and I did it wrong, or I made a mistake, he never said to me, why didn't you do it like this? Or why did you do it like this? This was the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, Hazrat Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala, he said that one time there was an occasion where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to me, and he said to me, "Oh Anas, won't you do such and such a thing for me?" And you know what Hazrat Anas said to him? He said no. He said this to the Prophet alayhi salam, he said no. But not because he was being disrespectful. It's not because he was being disrespectful to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The ulama write this. They say because the reason why he said this is because this is the nature of young boys. Young children, this is what they do. They will say no. And they sometimes do retaliate. And you've got to understand this. They're young children, they do retaliate, you know, and they will say no. And then the Prophet ﷺ, according to the narration, they smiled and they walked away. And they came back some time later and they said to Hazrat Anas radiallahu ta'ala, and they said, "Oh Anas, did you do such and such a thing for me?" And he said, "I'll go right now." And he went and he did what the Prophet ﷺ did. But there's a lot to take from this particular riwayat, and the ulama wrote extensively about this, about the way the Prophet, and you know, shall I tell you a fact? This is a fact. The Prophet ﷺ never struck a female or any of his wives or any child in his life sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He never struck a child. This wasn't the way of the Prophet ﷺ. You know, these days they say, you know, put them on the naughty step, do this, do that. You know, even with very, very young children. But we don't find this in the in the way of the Prophet ﷺ, the way that they interacted with children. Now the Prophet and you know something, you know, recognizing the emotional states of children, this was also within the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala, and he had a young brother, Abu Umayr, I believe, radiallahu ta'ala. He had a young brother, and this young brother, the Prophet ﷺ, he would go to the house of Hazrat Anas bin Malik radiallahu ta'ala, and his younger brother was there one day, and his brother had a bird, a pet bird, and it was called Nughair. The pet bird was called Nughair. So one day the brother sat there, and he's only a young child, and he's very sad, he's very upset. And the Prophet ﷺ, when they looked at this child, they seen the upset in his face. They seen that he looked down. And the Prophet ﷺ inquired, and they said, "Why is he upset? Why is he down?" Look at the way of Rasulullah. Look at the caring manner of the Prophet ﷺ. Why is he down? Why is he upset? And they said, "Ya Rasulullah, his pet bird died. His pet bird, it died." And the Prophet ﷺ then made conversation with Abu Umayr, and they said to him, they said to him, "Oh Abu Umayr," he said, "Ma hadha ala Nughair." He said, "What?" He said, "What did the little bird do? What did the little bird Nughair do?" He asked him this question. And the ulama write that the Prophet ﷺ, they were consoling Abu Umayr. They were consoling him because he was sad and he had lost his pet bird. And they were consoling him. This was the way. And the ulama write, what they were also doing, they were doing something extremely key here. And they were teaching this young child about the reality of this world. They were teaching him that it's unfortunate what's happened, but this is what happens ultimately. You know, we live and we die, and by his bird dying, his pet bird dying, what the Prophet ﷺ was trying to show him and trying to teach him, this is the reality of life. We live, and one day, like your bird, everybody else will perish. We will all pass away. And you know, the ulama, they wrote extensively about this hadith. Allama Hajar Asqalani, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said the ulama, they extracted more than 100 masala about this hadith, about the way the Prophet ﷺ interacted with this young child, Abu Umayr. And you know, there's many writings about the way the Prophet ﷺ was incredibly gentle, they were incredibly loving, compassionate with children, because this was their style. And you know, the verse that I mentioned at the start, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, and in the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, there is a perfect example for you. The best of example is in the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah is guaranteeing this is in the Quran. He's telling us this formula in the Quran. So if we follow this formula through the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, we can't become wrong. You know, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, they say when Hazrat Fatima Zahra radiallahu ta'ala anha, their daughter, when she would enter the room, the Prophet ﷺ would stand out of respect of Sayyidina Fatima Zahra radiallahu ta'ala anha. They would receive her with a hug and a kiss. And this was the respect that they had for Sayyidina Fatima Zahra radiallahu ta'ala anha. And you know something? Sure, she was from Ahlul Bayt, and there is no one like Hazrat Fatima Zahra radiallahu ta'ala. But we need to also create these environments of love in our own homes. You know, it's nice to just listen to this and say, Alhamdulillah, mashallah, kya baat hai. But we need to go home and implement this in our own house. You know, I'll tell you something, and this is something I tried. When my son was very young, every day when I used to go home, I used to meet him first. I would go and I would say Assalamu alaikum to him, big smiles, and I would kiss his hand and I would put it on my forehead out of respect. It's just something that I tried, just out of respect. And he used to watch me do it every day. He was only very young at the time. I think he was about 1.5, 2 years old. Very young at the time, and it wasn't until long after that when I would come home, he would stand, he'd be very excited, he'd daddy, 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 and he would do the same thing to me. Now he kisses my hand back and puts it on his forehead. After I do it, then he does the same and he puts it on his forehead. And but the thing is, the sort of maqsad behind this, the reason behind this is we need to develop these relationships of love. We need to teach the children that, if you respect your father, not because I'm worthy of respect, if you respect your father, this will attain Allah's raza. This will attain the raza of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we know what the Quran says about this. We know about the respect of parents in these, that this elaborated and emphasized and impressed upon us from the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And these are the people that will go far. These are the people that will be, I've seen, believe me, and especially amongst the ulama, but those people who are most successful that I've seen are those people who respected their parents. Are those people who, when their parents enter the room, they stand. When their parents enter the room, they say Gigi and they're scared and they're on edge. My father's told me to do something, my mother's told me to do something. Like we do when we see our teachers. This is also the respect that we should have to our parents. And this is something, and the biggest thing that I'm trying to say to you here is we must teach by example. We can't expect our children to be perfect children and teach them and give them all their rights in the respect of teaching them how to respect us if we're going to be bad examples. We need to be the examples. We need to emphasize the sunnah of Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to emulate his personality sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's extremely important. If we don't do this, we're not going to see our children follow this. We're not going to see them understand what the proper prophetic sort of way and manner is in the home. So this is something that we sort of need to do. Now, I was saying to you, Sayyidina Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with their own grandsons, Hazrat Imam Hassan, Hazrat Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, the way they treated them, the way they loved them, the way they respected them. You will know the hadith available in this respect. You will know the hadith available in this respect. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, oh Allah, I love them. He was holding them, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala. He said, oh Allah, I love them. And oh Allah, whoever loves them, you love them too. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about his own grandsons. And one day, this is in hadith, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he had Hazrat Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he had him on his shoulders, and he was letting them ride on his Mubarak shoulders. And I believe it was Hazrat Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala, and he said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ya Rasulullah, ni'mul markab. He said, what a beautiful ride. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no. He said, ni'mal rikab. He said, what beautiful riders. Look at the way of the Prophet ﷺ. He praised. And let me tell you something. The Prophet ﷺ, he always praised children. He always praised. You know something? There was one man that I knew, and he said to me, and he was an alim ad-din. And he said to me, I said to him, Hazrat, what inspired you to become an alim? And he said to me, when I was young, an alim came to my house. And my father used to have taluqat with the ulama. And he said to me, he said, Inshallah, Aziz, one day you will become an alim ad-din. And he said, a chord with me. He struck a chord with me. And ever since that day, he said, I remember, I believed that I would be an alim ad-din. And he said, and I strived hard in this respect. And he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made me from amongst those who are ahli ilm, from the people of knowledge. And he said, well, I believed it. What he said is the way he told it to me. And we should do this. This is another practice that we're lacking in these days. We don't, if somebody is doing something, I know somebody was telling me recently, he was saying to me, he said, I wanted to do this degree at university, and he said, my chacha said to me, he goes, Bete, let me tell you something. I've known you since you're a child. You're not that smart. You can't do this degree. Do something easier. Do something which you can tolerate and manage easily. This is too tough for you. He said, but I went to do it anyway, and I became successful. We need to inspire our children. Not give them negative thoughts. Let me tell you something. A young child has a very, very innocent soul. Innocent soul. When you say something to him or her, and you promise them something, right? That child believes you because you're the person who they trust most in this world. Let me give you an example. A child, you say to the child is out shopping with you. He goes, Dad, can I have a chocolate, please? And you say to him, Wapsime. Everyone knows what I'm talking about now. Wapsime. We'll get it on the way back, right? All the mothers know what I'm talking about now. Because that means you ain't getting it, right? That's what it means. And that child, he builds up expectations. Mom's going to buy me. She said she's going to get it me, right? And then when she doesn't, that child feels betrayed and deceived. Because this innocent soul, this young child, is not accustomed to lying and deception. They're not accustomed to these type of things. So when they hear this for the first time, it comes as a shock to them. It disturbs their insides. This person who they trust most, this parent of theirs, they're teaching them these things. And it keeps happening, until eventually when the child becomes mature, he realizes deep down, or she realizes deep down, she's just a liar. He's just a liar. They used to lie to me. And you don't want that to happen for that child. Because believe me, the child lives in a fairy tale world. A very much fairy tale world. And very quickly you can become the beast of their story. So be careful the way you handle children. Very, very careful. Another one we have. The Prophet ﷺ never humiliated children. Never, ever. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he wouldn't humiliate children. Right? Especially in groups. So you have a group of children playing, and your son or daughter or nephew does something wrong, and you say, oh, what are you doing? And they feel really humiliated. You don't know, but from inside they feel really, really humiliated. They're living in a fairy tale world. Right? Their world is very different to our world. And you can very quickly become the ogre in their life. You shouldn't do this. And it was the way of Rasulullah Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you have a dispute with anybody, you should take them aside and you should speak to them in private. This is also a haqq that you should afford, to the children. And look, the Prophet ﷺ, he was so gentle in his way towards children who, especially the children who were around him in the time of the Sahaba, like Hazrat Imam Hassan, Hazrat Imam Hussain, radiallahu ta'ala anhuma. They say that the Prophet ﷺ, when they would be sat on the mimbar delivering Jummah, when they were sat on the mimbar delivering the khutbah, if Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, if they walked into the mosque, the Prophet ﷺ became elated. He became extremely happy. They would stop the khutbah. They would come down from the mimbar and they would welcome their grandsons. This is the love that they showed towards their grandsons. This is the importance. This is the adab that they showed. And this is Rasulullah Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that I'm talking about. And this is the way of Rasulullah Kareem. And one day, one companion said that he said, the Prophet ﷺ came to our house. And he came with his grandsons. And we were praying salah. And he said, during sajda, he said, I lifted my head. Because the sajda was going on for a very long time. And he said, I lifted my head to see what was happening. And then afterwards he spoke to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, Ya Rasulullah, we thought maybe you were deep thinking about something. Or maybe you were receiving wahi, revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We became concerned. The Prophet ﷺ, he confirmed that it wasn't none of that. He said, it was simply my grandson, he was on my back. My grandson was on my back. I didn't want to sit up and cause him pain. I didn't want him to hurt himself. So I stayed like this. And this is very common. Children would climb on the Prophet ﷺ, especially grandsons, they would climb on the Prophet ﷺ whilst they were praying salah. But the Prophet ﷺ would wait and they would be patient. These days your child comes even before the musalla and you say to your wife afterwards, what are you doing? What was he looking? This child is in front of me. But look at the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Look at their tolerance towards and the love and the affection that they had towards these children, and the way that they sort of interacted, especially with their sort of grandsons. And so what I'm saying to you is, we must forge these connections and these relations with the Prophet with our children, and we must implement these practices in our own homes. Because if it's not going to start at home, we're in a horrible cycle. We're in a horrible cycle. How do we end these cycles? How do we finish these cycles? And a wise man once said, he said that our own destruction is repeated within us. So, the problems that we're having in Palestine is ongoing, is in its fourth generation now. It's passed on from, generation to generation. They inherit the problems. How do we get ourselves out of these cycles? The first way we will do this is by, it must start at an individual level. We must start at an individual level. We must begin it in each and every home. And that applies to every single one of you. That's not just something, or he needs to implement, or the Imam needs to implement. Everybody needs to do this. And when we do this, we will see the strength in our ummah and our future generations going forward. We don't want our children to be on the streets and be the face of shame and causing, shame on Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. We want our children to be those children that people look at and they say, mashallah, or they say amazing. They say, we want to be a part of this ummah. Look at these great children it's produced. Look at these great people that it's produced. We want to be from a part of these amazing products. Had we, or should we, implement these practices in childhood disease, that would be the next step. There's a hadith of quoted by Imam Tabrani. Imam Tabrani, rahimahullah ta'ala, Hazrat Ali karamallahu wajhal kareem, he brings this hadith. And he said, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, you should give three things to your child. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he said, the first thing that you should give to your child is hubbi nabikum, love of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the second thing that you should give to your child is hubbi ahli baytihi, love for the ahlul bayt, for the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And then he said, what tilawati Quran. So, and then you should, in other words, he talked about the Quran and the Day of Judgment, and he was emphasizing the importance of that we should give to our children. And the first part I can't emphasize to you enough. We need to teach them the love of Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Because those communities that have the love of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, those communities will be the ones which are successful. If you have the love of the Prophet ﷺ in your heart, you will be regulated in the way that you act, in the way that you conduct yourself. You will emulate your personality with the colors of Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And they're not going to get the education from anywhere else. This is a duty upon us. We must teach it to them in our own actions, in our attitude, in the attitude of the husband and the wife, and the other children of the household. We need to breed this within them. We must inculcate this within our house, within our homes. When that happens, and then through education. So you take books like Shamal Tirmidhi, you take Bukhari Sharif, you take these hadiths of the Prophet, and you go through them with your children. This is a beautiful exercise. You need to have these bonding sessions with your children. You need to have these bonding sessions with your children. And if we're going to neglect in these respects, then how are we to teach the love of the Prophet ﷺ to our children? And hubbi ahli baytihi, the love of the family of the Prophet ﷺ, you need to go through these stories with them. And if you don't know them, learn them. Because there's a duty on you. There is a duty on you. And believe me, when you have children that are pious, that are God-fearing, and you've inculcated this idea in them of God consciousness, Allah is watching us, Allah is around us, then you will see the barakah in your homes, inshallah disease. There was a child, a Jewish child, who lived in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he was in love with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I finish on this. He was in love with the Prophet ﷺ. And he was a Jewish child. His father was an enemy of the Prophet ﷺ. He was a great enemy of the Prophet ﷺ. So he was scared. He knew that if his father realized the love he had for the Prophet ﷺ, this would cause problems for him. But he was a Jewish child. Anyway, so he would wait outside the mosque and he would wait by the sandals of the Prophet ﷺ, the nalayn of the Prophet ﷺ. And he would wait for the Prophet ﷺ to finish, and he would present their shoes out of love to the Prophet ﷺ. And he used to come to the mosque every day to do this, to present his love in the bargah of the Prophet ﷺ. He was an ashiq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One day, the Prophet ﷺ noticed that this boy had disappeared. And he wasn't coming anymore. So the Prophet ﷺ inquired about this child. Where is this child? And they found that this child was very ill. And news came back, this child is extremely unwell. And there's also a narration that I've come across that the father, when he seen his child so ill, he knew how much he loved Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he knew his son was dying. And he knew all his son wanted was to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's all he wanted. And he couldn't take this. So he went to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and said, Ya Rasulullah, please come and see my son. It will make him happy. Come to my home. This enemy of the Prophet today, he's saying, Ya Rasulullah, please come to my home. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the Prophet ﷺ came, and I believe they were with Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. Great sahabis of the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine this. Can you imagine if Rasulullah ﷺ, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, they come to your home? And what was the cause of this coming? It was Ishq Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The reason was because they had ishq with the Prophet. He had ishq with the Prophet ﷺ. Even though he wasn't in Iman, he didn't formally declare Islam, but he had ishq with Rasulullah ﷺ. Anyway, when the Prophet ﷺ came to his house, he became elated. He became so excited and happy when he seen the Prophet ﷺ. And then they say, whilst he was in the final moments of his life, the Prophet ﷺ invited him to Islam. They gave him the invitation to accept Islam. And the child looked at his father. The child looked at his father because he feared his father. And the father said, my son, why do you look at me today? If the Prophet ﷺ has invited you, then accept him. Then he accepted Islam. And when the Prophet ﷺ, when they left that home, they stood outside the home and they made dua. Where Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, they made dua for this child. And they say at that time the angel of death came, and he came to take the soul of that child. So this child, what I'm saying to you is, even though he wasn't somebody in his lifetime who had formally accepted Islam, he had love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had the ishq and muhabba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a result of that ishq and that muhabba of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that's that code, that forged with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that's what gained him his salvation. That's what protected him and saved him in the end, was that love of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. When you colour your children with the ishq of Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you better believe all around them will be the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the protections of the angels and the khas karam and nazar insha'Allah al-aziz of Sayyidina Rasul Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I leave you with this final quote. You know something? There's two types of people. There's those who inspire to the greats, and these are two choices that we have. There's those who inspire to the greats, and then there's those who aspire to become those who are great. Become those who are great. Aspire to those who are great, and aspire to become them, and colour your lives with the noor of the Quran and the Sunnah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability and facility to incorporate the noor of Sharia and the tarbiyah of Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam in our homes, so that tomorrow we produce bastions, vanguards and leaders in the ummah of Rasul Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Wa ma alayna illa al-balagh al-mubin.